Good evening, everyone. This is Bobo here with another edition here with Crisis in the Toyverse. We have some very special guests with us from Wandering Planet Toys to talk about an amazing new Kickstarter program that they got going on, along with another few other tidbits, if you will, about their company and what they love to do in the world of toys. Joining me today is Doc Wyatt. Doc, what is your role in all this, and what do you do with the company?
I'm Doc Wyatt. I'm one of the founders of Wandering Planet Toys. My partner Gavin and I started it a couple years ago.
Oh, awesome. Great to hear. And also joining us is Jenn Fisher. Jenn, would you like to tell us about what you do within the company and what your roles are?
So I am on the Nancy Drew fan side. I run a group called Nancy Drew Sleuth. And Doc and Gavin reached out to me because I often consult with companies that are licensing Nancy Drew for different kinds of products and merchandising. And so they kind of wanted my Nancy Drew expertise to help them guide them through this process.
Oh, fantastic. A wonderful bonding and, work relationship being formed over a cool IP. Let's just go ahead and dive into everything. And Doc, this first question is for you. What was the genesis of Wandering Planet Toys, and how did everything get started?
Gavin and I are both animation writers and producers, and we work together on a few different shows. We worked together on a Transformers show called Cyberverse, and we worked together on a Spider-Man series for Marvel Animation, and we hang out. I mean, we started years ago working together on a show called Iron Man Armored Adventures. And so we'd be in the writer's room just talking about our shared love of toys. We're both toy collectors. We have the stuff from when we were kids still. We collect now, and we just talk about our favorite toy releases, about upcoming toy releases. And then one day Gavin's like, I just want to make my own toys. Like, I just want to learn how to make my own toys. And so he started figuring it out. Like, he met with other like indie toy makers and just got advice and got things going. And he came to me when he had the idea to do a prisoner toy line based on the 1967 British television show The Prisoner. And he knows that I'm a massive Prisoner fan. He's like, hey, do you want to do these figures together with me? And so we started working on it, and we started a toy company together. And that's how things got started.
I hope I had myself on mute. Very professional of me. Um, that sounds really awesome. And how long has the company been around now?
Oh, only about 2 years. This is this Nancy Drew toy line that we're here to talk about today is only our second toy line. It's truly an indie company, an indie toy company. Like, we have our day jobs making TV content, and then nights and weekends we do this out of Gavin's garage. It's very much a like two-man and one garage operation.
Awesome. Jenn, you said you spoke with Nancy about the Nancy Drew IP. What drew you to get involved with Nancy Drew?
Well, I've known Doc for quite a few years. He came to one of our Nancy Drew conventions a few years ago. And so he reached out to me about consulting on this line. So that's kind of how I got involved. And so it's just been kind of interesting learning that process behind the scenes and all the different stages of getting these figures into production. I provided, some information about the covers and the characters and the books and things, and helped get them in with Simon and Schuster for licensing, and helped get the illustrator for the novella that they're going to be doing as part of the Kickstarter campaign. So I've just been having a lot of fun working behind the scenes with them.
Oh, that's fantastic. Um, One thing I noticed when I was doing my research with everything with the company is that I saw that you already have a figure that's over on Big Bad Toy Store right now on pre-order, The Prisoner.
That's right. Well, it's I think Big Bad Toy Store is currently sold out.
Oh, okay.
But we're gonna be restocking. Yeah, The Prisoner is it's a toy line based on a 1967 British TV show that's half spy, half sci-fi, half absurdist drama. Is strange and weird, and it blew my mind when I was 10 years old watching this show. Like, it was made in the 60s, but it had a big resurgence on American television in the 80s. It played on PBS stations like after Doctor Who and before Monty Python, and it just blew my mind. That was We kickstarted that toy line. Big Bad also picked it up, and we're in some retail spaces with it too. We are, though the stock is very low on The Prisoner, but we will be running. We will be manufacturing more of them. We're also going to be doing a wave two with some additional figures. We're really excited for the future of The Prisoner. We just re-upped our license with ITV, which is the holder of the license, and we're really excited to get even more Prisoner toys out there.
Fantastic. That sounds like a very exciting venture. So now that you guys have worked on The Prisoner, how did Nancy Drew fall into your guys' creative space to go forth?
Well, like Jen said, I've always been a fan of Nancy Drew. I read the books growing up. I started with the Hardy Boys books and transitioned over to Nancy Drew. When I met and my wife and we married, she had loved Nancy Drew when she was little. It used to be like her just her go-to kind of. It was something when we were dating, we sort of bonded over. And then Gavin and we loved making the Prisoner toys because there had never been Prisoner toys. The show was a hit when it came out. It was one of the rare British shows of the era that aired on network television in the United States in the summer of '67, and it was a hit in the U.S. It was a hit in the U.K. The star Patrick McGowan was the highest paid actor in Britain at the time. He was offered the role of James Bond, turned it down twice, and the show was had a massive cult following ever since. But there had never been toys, and we wanted to fix that. And that's something we really enjoyed. We enjoyed making a toy something that should have been a toy before and hadn't been made yet. And so we started thinking about what other toys could we do. And we came across Nancy Drew, and Nancy is just a storied icon. She debuted in 1930. She was the original girl detective. Kids were trading Nancy Drew books, back and forth during the Depression, like they were baseball cards, and reading them. She was a hit from when she first came out, a bestseller, and she's just hundreds of novels, been in continuous print since 1930. New books still coming out today. She's had 9 different feature films, 3 different TV shows across the decades, 1 TV show that's on air now, but she has never had an action figure. There's never been a Nancy Drew action figure. And that was like, we were like, we want to fix that. That's sort of what we did with The Prisoner, and that's what we wanted to do. And so we reached out to Jen, and we started the ball rolling.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, no, like in my research, I had seen that, and there was really no Nancy Drew figure. I mean, so seeing that somebody tackle that's quite interesting. Um, Jen, let me ask you: when they brought this to you, what was your reaction, excitement, thought process of this being presented?
Well, I was really excited. I'm always excited when somebody has an interest in Nancy Drew. But I grew up in the 80s, kind of like Doc and Gavin. And so we were kind of in that heyday of like Star Wars action figures and stuff like that. I loved my Star Wars action figures. I still have them, but of course, I never had Nancy Drew action figures. So the thought of being able to have something so tangible and cool like that for Nancy Drew, just, yeah, that was a thrill to be able to kind of get involved with this and see it come to life like it has. So yeah, I was very excited.
That's awesome. So I guess that takes us to the main event here. So now that you guys have met with each other and you're understanding, what you want to do. That brings us to the Kickstarter. Why did you guys decide to go the Kickstarter route, uh, what does Kickstarter offer you guys that through normal distribution channels that you may or may not see?
Well, we're the thing is, we're just indie guys, right? We're just indie toy makers. We've never, never worked for a toy company. Don't know much about the toy industry other than as fans, and we just wanted to get started. And Kickstarter, what Kickstarter offers us is, I mean, we don't have retail relationships, we don't have big distribution connections, being able to offer figures directly to fans, that to reach out and just find the fans and make the figures, like that's the way to go. It also is like we gather the Kickstarter funds, and we use the Kickstarter funds to manufacture the toys. So being indie guys who don't have deep pockets and don't have access to bank loans, our manufacturing can't be like a debt structured manufacturing where we pay for the figures up front and then bring them out. We've got to collect the capital, use that capital to manufacture the figures, and then distribute them. So it's a way to Kickstarter allows us to defray upfront costs until the Kickstarter is closed, and then use the Kickstarter money to actually manufacture the figures. It's a great way to sort of jump into manufacturing without having to build up your funds first, without fundraising first. Um, and But we've also found that it's such a great way to build communities. We were aware of sort of the Prisoner Fan Club and the Prisoner conventions in Port Marion, Wales, where the show was shot. But we were like, what are Prisoner fans toy collectors? You know what I mean? Like, why? One thing you have to ask yourself: we're getting to make these toys for the show that's never had toys, but the question is, why didn't it ever have toys? Did it not have toys because the fans don't want them? But that was the concern. That was the risk. That was the place where that was the leap of faith we had to take. But it turns out that the fans did want them. That Kickstarter was a huge success for us, and we've got a great demand going into wave 2. So that Kickstarter helped us prove that market existed. Like if we had just gone to a Hasbro or a Mattel or an existing toy company and said, hey, we have the rights to make a Prisoner figure, help us make a Prisoner figure, Hasbro would have said, are there enough Prisoner fans to buy figure? I mean, this market was unproven, right? And Kickstarter helped us prove the market. And the same has been true of Nancy Drew action figures. We're making these Nancy Drew action figures based on the books, on the cover art of the books. So it's not based on one of the Nancy Drew movies or TV shows. And it's kind of unusual for there to be action figures from books as opposed to from the films made from the books, right? Like there wasn't a Katniss Everdeen action figure until there was Hunger Games movie. Like they didn't make action figures from the books, they did from the movie. So it's kind of an unusual step. Also, I mean, there's some people that say, hey, like female action figures don't sell. They say like women don't buy action figures and guys don't buy action figures of female characters. Like that's sort of, I mean, that's what some people say. I think it's complete garbage. I, as a collector, collect female figures, even though I'm male, and we know from being actually, toy collecting fans that they're female toy collectors, and so this Kickstarter proved that wrong. I mean, we funded on day 4, of this Nancy Drew campaign, and we've got more backers every day who are saying, finally, Nancy Drew action figures.
Yeah, no, I wanted to say congratulations on getting the Kickstarter funded. Usually, in interviews like this, people are trying to get the Kickstarter a little bit of extra juice, but you guys are just, plowing right through, rocking and rolling. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. Yeah, we announced a stretch goal and then met the stretch goal so fast that we haven't had time to announce another one yet.
um, so going through the Kickstarter, my questions that I had were, so there's multiple different covers with multiple different designs, for each, what is it? The which one you want to back?
The different tiers.
Yes. Seeing so tier one, what was the process like on choosing this cover and this version to put out there?
Well, I think this one of all of them was the no-brainer. This is The Secret of the Old Clock. It's the first ever Nancy Drew book, originally in its original version published in 1930. And that particular cover isn't the original cover art, but it was the 60s cover art. And it was the cover art that was on the book in the 80s when me and Gavin and Jen were all reading the books. And I think that this cover is really iconic. Like, I think that if you show this cover to any child of the 80s who spent any time in bookstores or libraries, they would, most of them would have a memory of this cover. And so it was like, this is it. This is the place to start.
Awesome. So let me ask you both this question. When you guys see the renders of are these renders or these actual prototypes images?
That particular image is a 3D render.
3D render?
But yeah, if you go up, there is a prototype of that figure photographed right there.
Right there.
Yeah.
So when you guys see this, you've seen it in cover, you've seen the 3D render, and then you guys see the prototype. Like, what's going through your head in terms of excitement, like seeing this, here we are.
What was your first thought, Jen, when you saw the...
Well, yeah, I just thought it was really cool. It was so accurately depicted from the cover, which is awesome because fans are going to want that accurate depiction. So they definitely fulfilled that. That was great. It just, I haven't actually had it in hand where it's totally tangible to me, but I'm getting the tangibleness of it by seeing, the photo of it. And it's just really exciting just to see it come to life like that. Like she just stepped right off the cover.
Awesome. So that was tier one. Tier two, the hidden staircase. This is one that I'm more familiar with than the secret clock.
Oh, what's your memory of this cover?
I remember at the small town library that I was living at, they had a whole section like it was over by the bathroom, not saying that, but that's where they kept all like the young adult books, like they just had 2 rows and they had a whole bunch of the Hardy Boy and Nancy Drew stuff like all together. So like we would read the books usually during like when they would offer like the pizza like contests they would have at the local library.
Yes.
Yeah.
You would have to read. You'd have to write down each book you read and have
yeah. So those books were easy access to read, and so that was the first book of Nancy Drew that I ever read.
That's cool. I love this cover too, and I get why it was memorable for you, because for many, this artist's name was Rudy Nappy, and for much of the Rudy Nappy covers, especially the first ones Rudy was doing, the cover art is so much about what's not in the image as opposed to what's in the image. So like if you look here, what we've got is Nancy. She's kind of making her way up the staircase. Her flashlight is pointed off screen up left where she's looking, and she's clearly you're looking at Nancy looking at something. And what is she looking at? The cover itself is a mystery. It asks a question. And so and a lot of Rudy's covers are like that. Like we're about to look at Old Attic, and it's sort of the same way where Nancy's pulling something out of this old chest in an attic, but she's looking over her shoulder, and in the pose, it looks like something has just happened just off screen that she snapped her neck around to look at, and it's like, what's there? What's happening? So like the artist was creating these little mysteries just on the cover, and I think that sticks out for you. It's like the unplayed note, you know what I mean? It's like what isn't there? Like it's like an itch in your brain. And so we chose this. It's the second book, so it's natural to do right after old clock, but we're not doing the figures all in order like that. But it's the second one. It is a one that a lot of people have childhood memories of, and so yeah, we definitely want it. Plus, we want to make that cool flashlight accessory.
Yeah, it is.
Absolutely.
It's one of my favorite books. I have a couple of favorites, and they've done two figures on those, Old Attic and this one. But I still have my childhood book. I can kind of
Oh,
show
look at that.
here.
So cool.
Still have it, and I have it signed by Rudy Nappy.
Oh, that's so
Isn't that
awesome.
cool?
That
So
is
I
very
had to share
cool.
that. Yeah, so it's very sentimental for me. So seeing this figure is just really cool. Yeah,
That's
so
awesome.
yeah,
That's really cool. Thank you for sharing that.
yeah.
That's
Little
really
show
cool.
and tell.
So moving on from there, we got the secret, the secret in the old attic, if I could speak properly.
Yeah.
Another cool cover.
Yeah, this cover, I love this color for how the artist used color. Like the way the red of her dress and the white stripe of her dress just pops in that darkened attic. And in the scene in the book, she actually, the darkness is a big part of the scene. Like there's spiders everywhere. She can't see what's happening because the candle is so dim. And that moment in the book is really evoked so well by this cover, and such a bold color. It was like begging to be a figure.
Yeah, no, it looks beautiful. Like it's, each one of these, they obviously pop basically, you're seeing the cover and then you're seeing the figure, but this one I really like too, just because of that contrast with the light and the dark, and then that red, especially on the prototype here, or on the render, just looks really nice.
Thank you so much.
And then we have tier 4, the clue of the dancing puppet.
Yes, this was a delight to do because it's a little bit hard to see on the screen here, but in the cover, what's happening in the book is Nancy's staying with a troupe of actors in an old barn that they've converted into a theater, and they're being driven out of business, because of the idea that it's sort of haunted and there's mysterious stuff happening, and audiences are staying away. I think very much the prototype for like Scooby-Doo stories, later. But this odd ballerina, this sort of faceless marionette, this faceless puppet appears in the middle of the night. And whenever she runs out to try to find out who's operating the puppet or what it is, it disappears. So this bizarre eyeless puppet really captured our imagination, and we wanted to make it. So Nancy, the dancing puppet Nancy, in that blue dress, comes with, if you'll see just to in the package insert, comes with an accessory which is the faceless dancing puppet, ready to creep out all the action figures on your shelf when you get
Oh,
it.
wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I
Yeah.
dig that. And then it looks like tier 5 is not just one, but two. Another cover I remember seeing.
Oh, you do? That's awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, do you want to talk about this one, Jen?
Yeah, sure. So this one is a cool cover because I remember as a kid when I first saw this one, I just thought immediately, just from looking at the cover, that this was, Nancy, but it's not Nancy. It's the evil, sinister villain who's playing Nancy, but is a ghost that's trying to haunt Lilac Inn. And Nancy is actually the other figure right here in the dark wig, kind of trying to be the villain who's dressed as Nancy. So it's just an interesting cover, and she's wearing the glowing bracelets like the villain. And so when they did this set, they were able to do like a two-figure set, which is really cool. And so they have like the translucent, ghostly, villain Nancy, the doppelganger figure, which is the second figure. And then the first figure, of course, is Nancy in her disguise from the cover. So I thought this was really cool that they did the two-figure set for this one.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And then I see this one's a little more, but you're getting two figures, obviously, instead of just one. So I think that's a good bang for your buck for those looking to back the Kickstarter. Um, this is a really cool set. Like, I really like this. And then another 2-pack set is the Crooked Banister.
Yeah, this is maybe my personal favorite. The thing about this is, unlike those other Nancy Drew books, the ones we've just talked about, Attic and Old Clock and Hidden Staircase, and Dancing Puppet, those are basically those, and Lilac Inn, those are all sort of considered classic Nancy Drew books. You know what I mean? Like they're ones you think of when you think of Nancy Drew. Crooked Banister is a little bit lesser known. It's sort of an odd corner of the Nancy Drew universe. It's one of the original 56, but it is like a kind of a weird one. And in it, what happens is there's this con man who's gone missing, and Nancy's lawyer father has to find this con man. And so Nancy's helping out, and she does that by committing breaking and entering at the missing con man's house, which is this weird Winchester mystery house type of place. And she has to cross like a moat of fire to get in there. Once she gets in, there are secret passages, and there's this actual crooked banister, even though the person himself is also known as the Crooked Banister. And then there is like a staircases that go to like nothing, and there's this weird retro robot with wheels under his feet that is programmed by tape. Like you put in programming tape to record to program this old retro robot, and I guess contemporary to the book, but retro to us. And it immediately tries to crush the life out of Nancy with its big metal arms, right? Like, and I just, Gavin and I looked at each other. It was like, we're making the robot. Like, we are making the robot. Like, there's nobody thinks Nancy Drew and thinks, ooh, retro robot. But but it was just so weird and so fun. And plus, Nancy has never, like, she's in no other cover is she in this kind of eggplant purplish sort of color. And we just thought, well, this is just so strange, it has to happen. And so we worked to make it happen.
Oh, fantastic. And then scrolling on down here, I see that we have, instead of the book design, there's another tier for, those who enjoy the retro card back look.
Yeah, well, a lot of people are card collectors, and they just leave the figures on cards. And so we call it the secret book design for that book kind of packaging, because
Mhm.
it's designed to, when you look at the package, you can open it up like a book, but you can also rest it on your shelf with your Nancy Drew books, like, so that it just sits on your bookshelf, and no one knows it's even an action figure until you open it up and bring it out. It's also resealable, so you can open it up, take it out, play with it, pose it, photograph it, put it back up, and put it on the shelf. These card backs are not resealable. They're just classic blister card backs for people who, display that way, on the
Oh,
peg,
nice.
on the wall.
No, absolutely. I'll be honest with you. As much as I like the retro card backs, I think I like the secret book box
Yeah,
design
they're
better.
fun. It's a mystery.
Well, not only that, like, I know a lot of work goes into packaging, so there's this thing as a collector where it's like, yeah, do I keep this box that somebody spent time designing, or do I just toss it? So at
Yeah,
least with this, you can have your cake and eat it too.
exactly.
And then moving on from there, we have the ultimate package here for a Nancy Drew fan at tier 9.
That's right. Well, what this you get both the secret book packs and the 2 figure sets, but also the card back versions. There's a T-shirt that our graphic designer Jenny Moore created that looks like a concert shirt. So it has the art from Jen. Help me out. That skull cover.
Oh, Hollow Oak.
It has the art from Hollow
Yeah.
Oak. has this cool kind of very metal skull. I mean, the skull is a skull, but like it kind of like the closest to a heavy metal cover that Nancy Drew sort of ever came, in the original, and that has on the back these like names of the original 56, but listed as if they were concert dates. So it looks like a concert shirt. It's only in this tier. It's a special incentive here. It also, if you look to the lower left of that image, there's a Kickstarter exclusive also in this pack, which is yes, that's it.
Yes.
It's the silhouette figure. So this figure is, I mean, Jenn can talk a little bit the history of the silhouette, but the silhouette icon is associated with Nancy pretty heavily, and we just thought it'd be fun to do a figure of the silhouette. Like, when did the silhouettes come into play, Jenn?
So they came in around 1932. They were introduced to the books, and they were like this more 30s looking figure. And the one you're kind of doing is more like 40s. They kind of changed her a little bit, took away a scarf, took away a shadow, and just modernized her a little bit. And so this is more like kind of in line with that. And then the tweed backdrop to her kind of came into play, down the road, but it's a really cool look. So it almost looks like she's stepped off, the silhouette has stepped off of the cover, and you can pose in front of the cover. And it was just a really cool concept. So, that's a big favorite of mine in this line, is to see the silhouette.
And that silhouette comes in a hanging bag pack. It has a ground piece, which is a figure stand. So Nancy has a peg on the bottom of her heel, as we're all, as action figure collectors, are familiar with in the 4-inch range. Has the peg on the bottom of her heel, and there a hole in the bottom of her heel that pegs onto a peg on the stand, and then that backdrop is a cardboard backdrop. That represents the tweed cover that Jenn was just talking about. It's two-sided, so you can present it with the tweed cover side, or turn it around and present it with what looks like the first page of chapter 1.
That's really neat. That's a nice play on there. I think that's pretty cool. That's awesome.
The one thing we haven't talked about is the Case of the Curious collection. Now, what this is that our partners at Simon and Schuster, the licensees of or the licensors, I guess, of Nancy Drew, gave us permission to do a new Nancy Drew story. Now, of course, Nancy is still getting new books all the time, but they're way contemporary. Like they're more modern day, and they're for sort of even younger readers, and they are kind of feel a little bit more modern, right? This is us doing a story in the style of one of the original 56 books. So it'll like fit on your shelf with your original 56. It's being written by the current Carolyn Keene over at Simon and Schuster, and it is a novella. So it's the equivalent of 5 chapters of one of the original stories.
That's pretty awesome.
That's another Kickstarter exclusive. That won't be in bookstores. That won't be on Amazon. That won't be an ebook. It is the hard copy that we're making, and we will print the ones that are ordered for the Kickstarter, and then they will never be seen again.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah,
quite the treat.
I should add, for all the book fans out there, that this is a really, really, really cool thing to get. So you really ought to support the Kickstarter to get this particular novella if you want it for your book collection. And the illustrator is one of the early Nancy Drew paperback illustrators, from the 1979 to 1980s period, Ruth Sanderson. So it's really, really cool to have sort of a historic figure in the history of Nancy Drew that's come to illustrate this for everybody. So I think that's a huge draw for a lot of Nancy Drew fans and collectors.
Awesome. We only have a few minutes left, but I wanted to ask you guys, how many days do we have left on the Kickstarter project?
Our final date, Jenn, is May 17th. Is that right?
Yes, I think we're just like at or just slightly under 2 weeks from there. We're almost like, just slightly at 2 weeks. So still time to get your action figures.
still plenty of
Yes.
time. And I wanted to let you guys know that once again, I think the fact that this thing has already funded is fantastic. And I think the fact that you guys are still getting new backers and you're really offering something different. Nothing, I know there's so much action figure stuff out right now. It is, we're in a golden age, if you will, right now of what's being produced at all different levels. So to see Nancy Drew get the spotlight's awesome. And it sounds like uh, there's a really awesome team here that cares about the IP and wants to do it justice. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having us on and letting us talk about our toys.
Anytime. And folks, make sure you head over to Kickstarter. I will have links in the description and over on the website. And I just want to thank our guests again for taking the time to stop by. And until we meet again, everyone, great googly moogly.